we could see people trying to accumulate gold in the West at a cheap rate and trying to exchange it for more.
No, obviously, currencies failing is going to be good for gold and also silver. Do you see any immediate impact though if Russia does back the ruble with gold? Do you see any immediate impact on the gold price?
I guess it would depend at what rate they do it, whether there will be like an arbitrage. If they do it at a very high rate compared to the COMEX LBMA price, it will also depend on the dollar ruble exchange rate. We could see people trying to accumulate gold in the West at a cheap rate and trying to exchange it for more in Russia. So yeah, it will depend, but also the psychological impact. I think it will show the world that gold is not just a useless pet rock, that it's really important. Even though I'm sure the mainstream media, the politicians and others will try to say, well, this is just Putin again. He's using an old relic, doesn't know what he's doing. But you and I know that it's a good thing to have sound money. And I think it will be, it's not really the reason why I think it's interesting and good to have gold and silver, but it will definitely probably help the dollar price of gold and silver.
Now, when it comes to how this will impact silver, if we do see multiple countries starting to move towards gold-backed systems, do you see this having any impact on the silver price?
Yeah, definitely. I think silver is like the little brother of gold, so I think it will have a big impact. And the fact that currencies are losing value versus hard assets is another plus. I know silver is having a hard time, especially in the last week or so. But yeah, I still think it's a steal. And eventually people will wake up to the fact that it's very undervalued, not just against paper assets, but even against gold.
In a video recently, you did mention the gold-silver ratio and how it is rising. So as we're seeing precious metals pull back, we're actually seeing silver pull back more than gold. What do you think is happening right now, and why are we seeing the gold-silver ratio rising?
I think it's a little bit like in 2020, in the run-up to March 2020, when there was like worries about not just gold and silver, but also the overall market. People were liquidating the stocks and currencies were falling against the dollar. And silver is usually seen more as a hybrid, monetary and industrial. And I think that's what's happening right now. But I would say today, for example, I'm looking here, silver has been outperforming gold all day. And it's been a pretty rough day for the precious metals. So maybe we're starting to see the bottoming or topping of that gold-silver ratio right now. Right now, I see silver is down 1% and gold is down 1.7%. Usually, it's the other way around. So, and I've noticed as well that spot silver traded down to 22.11 and it's now at 22.56. Could that have been like a panic bottom? Maybe, even though I don't want to call a bottom, but it looks like we could be approaching a level where things are a bit overdone.
And your expectation then for the precious metals moving forward here, you're saying we could possibly have seen a bottom?
Yeah, today maybe. And today is interesting because it's a bank holiday in London. So the physical market in London, which is a big market, is probably not really active. So I saw that the commitment of traders for gold, the commercials still have a huge short position. They haven't been able to cut that position that much, even after the correction we've had from above 2,000. So they're desperate, I think, to cover. And what better way to cover it than to smash the futures with a few thousand contracts driving through like key technical levels, and then letting the speculators sell even more and then buy it back. So that's what I think could be happening. And it's always hard to call a bottom, but at least the action in silver today is pointing to that. We should be seeing silver underperform, and it's outperforming.
No, did you want to share with the viewers kind of some last thoughts regarding the possible backing of the ruble with gold and also the slowing of the global economy? How do people prepare for what is ahead?
As for the gold backing of the ruble, some people have asked, well, how do I get rubles? I want to have rubles. Well, just have gold, because the gold and ruble will be interchangeable. And again, I think it's going to start a trend all over the world. And it's more than just the ruble. It's just that when the dollar goes in terms of being the major reserve currency, when people don't perceive it as being as good as gold anymore, gold is going to be important, not just for the ruble, but for everyone else. In the last 25 years, a slowing global economy, in terms of investment, people would have been told to buy bonds, because usually interest rates would drop and yields would drop. But now we're seeing the opposite. We're seeing 1970s style move in asset markets away from stocks and bonds. So I haven't changed my strategy and my view that people, if they want to protect themselves financially, should have some exposure to hard assets, not just gold and silver, but also, if more speculative, the miners and also other commodities, I would say.
Now, some people are expecting that with the slowing economy and possibly tightening from the central banks, we could see a downturn in kind of all asset classes, especially stocks and precious metals, like we kind of saw in 2008 and right when COVID hit and everything was shutting down. Kind of everything took a big dip right there. Precious metals did recover pretty fast, but your take on that? Could we see further downside in the precious metals?
Up until a week or so ago, maybe 10 days, precious metals, commodities were way up year to date. Stock market was down year to date, bond markets as well. And more recently, though, we've seen the acceleration in the drop in bonds and stocks. And actually, yes, gold, silver, commodities, the miners, they've all corrected quite sharply. And I think this is happening now. This is the March 2020 or 2008 scenario. But I don't think it's going to be as sharp for commodities and precious metals. I think silver might be slightly down year to date now. Gold is still up year to date. Most commodities are up still year to date. So I think we need to think more in terms of stagflation and the 70s, and the fact that I think precious metals, commodities are going to outperform the stock market and the bond market. So I don't think it's going to be like 2020 and 2008. If anything, hard assets and commodities are going to outperform. And I think we're going to stay in the bear market in the stock market and bond market.